Welcome to the Rodeo Wagon Podcast, brought to you by the Western Edge app and produced by Cosmic Cowboys Productions. If you enjoy this podcast, make sure you go and follow our great partners over at Sombrero Brands, Cowboys Finest Cowboy Hats, Bluegrass Engravings, JM Ranch Snap Racks, and Ranch Life. What's up, James? How's it going?
Oh, pretty good. Just thought I'd sit outside today.
Heck yeah, kind of matches my background a little bit.
Yeah, we're just here on the front porch. Nobody ever uses the front porch, so I just decided we'd roll with it that way.
Heck yeah. Guys listening, if you don't know James, this is James Phillips. He is the best fantasy bull rider there's ever been. The
I
dude
don't know about that.
fantasy events than I think anybody's ever won.
I would hope so, but probably not. 5
You-
out of the last 8, and it should have been 8 for 8, but that's just how it goes.
Heck yeah. Tell everybody a little bit about that. You know, like that's kind of a cool deal what you've done with Rank Ride. You know, a little bit about your involvement with that and kind of going through that whole fantasy process, because that's actually pretty fascinating.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, let's back up just a little bit. Way before Rank Ride existed, well, I don't remember what year, but the PBR put out there what I consider the only real fantasy game, and that was called Road to Vegas. And
Yeah, that's right.
that was when you had 2 seasons, when you had like the first half of the season, and then the guys actually got a break, unlike they do nowadays. And then they went on a summer run, and then you would have the second half. Well, they would have a winner for the first half, and then they'd have a winner for the second half, and they'd fly them to Vegas and put them up in a hotel, and they would play against each other when they had the drafts for the PBR finals. They would have like a fantasy draft and be on stage with those guys and those kinds of things. I never actually got there because the closest I come to winning that was 8th. And then
Okay.
they took it away before I could win it.
How many years did they do that?
Uh, I want to get, it's just a guess, but probably about 4 years.
4 years. I remember, actually, that's funny you say that, because that would have been back in the time when me and my cousin Amber, we played for about a year in 2012, maybe 2011, 2012, when I was watching. I was more of a fan at that point. I just started riding in 2012, but I think I was playing fantasy before I rode my first bull on the PBR fantasy. And I remember winning one event, and I got a free pair of boots, and they never sent them to me. So.
No, that doesn't surprise me much. They just get busy and things. It's nothing against anybody
Oh yeah,
there,
sure.
but they just get busy, and they don't take it as serious on that front of things as I think they should, because the fans are the ones that are the reason why they exist today.
Yeah, and you know what? I thought that was a really cool, and what Rank Ride's done has been awesome, because when that kind of ended, that kind of did kind of suck a little bit, because I mean, heck, there's a lot of people out here that, I'd rather play, fantasy, bull riding than a lot of these guys aren't going to go watch football. Or, my cousin Amber, she's a diehard, bull riding fan, but she doesn't watch, football or basketball or anything like that. So being able to offer that same, fun atmosphere to the fans is pretty cool.
Right. And then before even Rank Ride, the first fantasy championship I actually won, uh, Jason Voss out of California, he was a calf roper. And he had this it was the first PBR real fantasy game for money and all that. And I won it, and I think it paid like $3,500 for the whole year. And I won it, and then I had some money saved, and then I was doing interviews tentatively, fixing to kind of quit that because I was promised uh, more things than they could ever write with or cash with their. They opened their mouth and cashed more checks with their mouth than they did anything else. So I got tired of my dad having to work 3 jobs and me doing everything I could do and sell things that weren't nailed down just to keep up with what I with my end of the deal, and I did. And so anyway, that ended, and some buddies of mine were going to CBRs then, and Andy Smith from up there in Iowa, heck of a bull hand, could still be riding today if he wanted to, but married and kids and all that. And you know more about that than I do. But uh, we won that, and my buddy Stetson Lewis comes and gets me, and we spent a whole month on the road in September of 2011. Changed my life forever because I learned more in that month, not only about bull riding and what it takes to get up and down the road, but just life in general. And so that was really cool. And then 2000, I want to say 13, 14, 15, somewhere in there, Luke Sullivan started one called Pro Bull Fantasy 8. And I won all of their championships, however many there were. I'd have to go look on my buckle display to figure that out. But there was probably at least 3 or 4. But the cool thing about his was he would give a buckle to the winner every week for an event,
Oh,
just like they would on TV. And then Rank Ride came along at a time in my life where uh, I couldn't move. It hurt to breathe. Uh, just a lot of things going on that nobody understood at the time, and I didn't even know Bonner was the one behind it when I
oh,
first originally found it. And he, I would get on Messenger with him and tell him certain things or ask him certain things, and we'd had a few arguments just because we didn't know. We knew each other, but we didn't know it was each other at
really?
that time. So, so anyway, he called me one day and tells me about it, and we start playing it, and it was completely free at that time
Yep.
because they just got started, and I ended up winning it in 2021, and uh, $10,000 winning an IV bag, and ooh, that hurt. I still have not. That's the most money I'd ever seen in my life at one time, and I had to put it in an IV bag.
Yeah.
Oh, made me sick, but I had to do what I had to do, kind of thing. But
A blessing then.
and then this year, I'm sitting first, but I'm sitting second until they hand me the buckle. And then last year, I won their first team series and the UTV at the same time last year. I've won 6 fantasy year-end championships. Should have been 7 or 8 because I should have won Road to Vegas. The thing back then was I knew everybody on tour because I was going all the time. I was going to 10 or 12 events a year. So instead of picking the matchups that would actually win, I expect buddies to ride every bull because they expect to ride every bull. And that's why I'd always bet on somebody like Kyle Jones when I was betting
Oh yeah.
today. But Bonner, Bonner was giving me crap the other day. We were just joking around, or maybe that was when he come and filmed that little piece on me. But he was saying, well, I told him about it. He didn't even know about it at that time because he was still doing CBRs and hadn't came over to the PBR yet when that was going on, or if he had of it, had just been his rookie year and he was just really getting started. And he He said, "Well, why didn't you win that one?" I said, "Because I picked you too much and you didn't do your job." And of course, I had to give him a hard time about that. Better open that before I try to take a drink, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Generally helps a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's it. That was my downside when I did play fantasy a lot is you just, it's hard to, pick a guy. Like it's one thing to just pick matchups and if you go at it that way, but I had a hard time doing that. I just wanted to pick the guys that, I liked, that I was friends with. Well, at the time I guess I was playing, I wasn't friends with any of them. I was still so new in all of it. I hadn't probably left Missouri riding bulls yet, but so I had my favorites and I had a hard time,
Oh
going against
yeah,
the grain.
learned. I learned when the money got bigger. I learned that hey, my friends would rather me have the money as anybody else. If stuff don't fit, uh, I'm still going to wish them luck, and I'm still going to hope that I'm wrong. But if if in my mind I have a gut feeling that hey, he's supposed to ride that bull, but I really don't think it's going to fit him today, then I'm going to pick somebody else. And I hate to even say that, but
Now, did you have a process as far as like researching bulls, keeping notes, like how to
watch it, pay
just watch?
attention to every little detail of it every chance you can. I don't keep up with pro bull stats and all that stuff. It's mainly people ask me all the time, how have you had so much success doing that? And honestly, I don't know. It it's just a gut feeling most of the time, to be honest with you.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I mean, I guess the more you watch it, the more you're just your instincts and your gut kind of it's right. Especially you start watching the bulls and the riders, and you kind of know, well, this guy's going to go up against this bull, and you just kind of have that feeling on some of that. I know even now watching like there's certain bulls that just kind of really don't match up with the guy's riding style and stuff like that.
yeah, and and to me, it you're a bull rider, and you can tell me this, but it's the stupidest thing in the world that guys focus so much um, riding into their hand. I mean, I know that that's usually everybody's strong point, so that's what they want to do.
Nowadays,
Uh,
it should be even more, by the way. With the team series and getting to choose your bulls, you're going to start seeing a lot of guys because generally speaking, if you get on the same caliber of bull going into your hand, generally you're going to get scored higher than away from your hand. Generally, that's not always the case. It's not an exclusive claim, but generally speaking, you get scored more. So you're going to probably start seeing these team series. You're going to see a lot of guys getting on a lot of bulls going into their hand.
and that's one of those things that I wish they could make a rule or something in the team series where if you put a guy on a bull, say on Friday night, that goes into his hand, the next night he has to go away from his hand. The only reason I say that is because you're doing that for 6 months of the year, so you're conditioning your mind to only be able to ride bulls away or into your hand. So so you're riding bulls into your hand for 6 months, and then you go to the UTV series where there's $1 million on the line and the most prestigious buckle in or second most prestigious buckle in bull riding, in my opinion, because national finals has been around and all the history behind
It's
it. But
different history.
but of course, if you're looking at it from a history standpoint, PBR has only been around 31, 32 years, but they do have the best bull riders in the world and the best bulls in the world. So I guess that makes you the best bull rider in the world when you win that. But when you're coming from a team series event for 6 months and then you go to the UTV, seems like half these guys get that look off virus. Every time it doesn't go into their hand, they just look off and check out. Uh, I'd rather get I'd rather get stomped to death as have to hang my head and know that I quit. And in that capacity, I'll tell you what. I mean, it happens to everybody. We've all done it.
You make an interesting point there. I think that it's a difficult that's going to be difficult. The only real way I think that they could make it to where, you're not picking matchups and playing off people's strengths would be if it was a draw format within the riders. So, I that's about the only way that maybe they could do it. Otherwise, because there is times where you're going to have, you know, a set of 5 bulls, and every single one of them's going to go one direction. There's no choice in the matter since it's a draw. So I don't know that that's going to happen. The other thing that you could do is and again, this is difficult too, and I don't know that it's the right answer. It's just an option. You could
Right,
start choosing more bulls that go either direction. Uh,
right,
you could choose an even pin on delivery. So not necessarily which direction they go, but look, 50% of them are going to go, out of the left hand,
yeah.
50% out of the right, stuff like that. But I'm not sure. I don't know.
I mean, at the end of the day, they're they're trying to make it to where it's like a regular sport. And hey, you know how I feel about a lot of it, and a lot of people do that follow the actual true fan page that you can actually speak your mind and you don't get blocked from, that your family created or somebody created. I think that y'all know.
No,
The one,
it didn't have to do with me.
the one that has Mason on the front of,
Yeah,
or on
yeah,
the,
right. I believe that one's fans of professional bull riding. Who created that? Dang it.
yeah,
She's on her name's on the tip of my tongue.
I don't,
Michelle Schrader? I believe
yeah, yeah,
I think
I know.
she's the one that created it. I'm not sure who created it, to be honest.
I don't either,
I
but
think there's only 3 of them on Facebook that I know of. There used to the Hurdies you was probably the first one that I knew of. That was back in the day when they had the
yeah,
what was
PBR,
that JB Mooney, that fan club they had on Facebook? The
yeah, it blew up. Of
it
course,
blew up.
everything got JB, but like, that's one thing I never understood about, most guys. Of course, I would prefer a bull going into my hand. I think I've only been on probably 3 or 4 in my entire life, but uh, I think honestly, I think I would have done better away from my hand based on the drills that I've done with a drop barrel and stuff back in the day. I could always do better away from my hand on the drop barrel, but doing it on drop barrel and doing it in real life is 2 different things. But why do guys make bull riding more complicated than it has to be, Kyle?
Well,
You're a bull rider. Tell me that.
I mean, I think that's in every sport, so I don't know that there's necessarily a specific answer to all of it. Uh,
And what I mean by that, when I'm saying that, is bulls have a mind of their own. Why do guys look up what they've done and their stats and all that junk? Who cares? Run them in and win every jump. You win every jump more than anybody else, regardless of the direction they go. You're going to be a world champion, and you
yeah,
can't.
I still think that there's guys out there, and I mean, certainly we're seeing it now, guys coming from the team series that, really hit their stride in the team series that have carried that over into the regular season. And, right now are in the top 10. So I think that certainly there are guys out there that, even from the team series, look at Colton Hevelo is a great example. Before
Oh
the
yeah,
team series, he hadn't caught a stride really, and that team series really helped his confidence a lot, and he went in this year and he's kind of dominated both ways. I think
oh
that when you get into directional issues, certainly how people ride is gonna matter a lot. And then into your hand, there's a little bit more forgiveness. There's more movement into your hand. It's probably why you get scored a little bit more. There's much more movement when you go into your hand with your free arm and such. Away from your hand, you tend to have a little bit less movement. It tends to look more controlled and not
don't
quite
even.
as flashy.
I
Um,
got that makes sense, but my philosophy is put put both legs on both sides, your chin up, and keep them down, and that's all you got to do, really.
hey, all you got to do is stay on for 8 seconds. That's it. You stay on for
Exactly.
eight. I mean, it can't be that hard. I definitely think you're right. I think people overcomplicate it, but I don't think that's unique to bull riding. I think it's just about in everything. Look at golfing, for example,
It,
as well.
it's life in general.
Yeah. You know,
Just
it
be just be grateful you woke up this morning and let God take care of you, however He's going to take care of you, and do the best you can with the situations you're given.
what's
Whether that's
fascinating,
life
what's
in general.
fascinating with that thought process is like what you're saying is so true. Like there's fundamental things that you should focus on, you should focus on all the time. And it's easy to get distracted. You know, one of my favorite sports psychologists, Dr. David Cook, he always said, performance equals potential minus distractions. And distractions, like they can take form in so many different ways, and one of those ways that it often takes form in athletes is overthinking. you know and and overthinking is a major distraction when it comes to reaching your full potential. So I think you're definitely right. And I think the direction change, it's very easy to overthink all of that. It's super easy to get in that. And I think one of the downsides, I think there's benefits to watching bulls, seeing bulls. There's feelings attached to all of that. But one of the downsides to it, which before all of the phones where everybody's videoing that they had, was the ability not to let that distract them. So there really was a focus on each jump, opposed to, you know, uh, getting distracted by which way he's going to go. And you do see it a lot where, you guy will get on a bull and he's watched this video and this bull goes left, 90% of the time. That one time he gets tipped in there a little bit too much and he steps forward and goes right, and you're just left there. Like, there's nothing you can do at that point. So I definitely think that, what you're saying as far as like focus on what you can control, and that's winning every jump and focusing on each jump. When I'm riding my best, me and Cody Nance was talking about this. He's like, when he was riding his best, leaving the chute and everything, he wasn't thinking about all of this stuff. It was just
Well,
going, and it was just every single jump, riding that jump for what it is. And I think you make a good point. Why people overthink stuff, man, there are probably a bunch of different reasons. One could be the people you're going with. When I'm talking to you all the time, and I've talked to you lately, I mean, heck, it inspires me like, hey, Kyle, stop getting distracted by all this crap. Be focused on winning and doing everything you can in each moment and overcoming all of these things. Like, we can all complain about this or that, or hey, this bull, did this or that, but I mean, that ain't going to help us move forwards. Hey there, folks. I want to tell you about my favorite cowboy hat brand, Sombrero Brands. As a professional bull rider, I know how important it is to have a hat that not only looks good, but can withstand the toughest rides out there. And that's exactly what Sombrero Brands delivers. Their hats are custom fitted and shaped to perfection, with a level of attention to detail that's hard to find these days. But what really sets Sombrero Brands apart is the fact that they're a family-owned and operated business. Mark and Kendall Holler, the owners, and their daughter Sarah, who's only 13 but already a hat-making prodigy, are all passionate about their craft. They know what it takes to make a cowboy hat that can stand up to anything the rodeo circuit can throw at it. And get this, the founder's grandfather, Polly Holler, was born and raised at South Camp on the 4-6's ranch. These folks have got cowboy blood running through their veins, and it shows in every hat they make. That's why I'm proud to have Sombrero Brands as a major sponsor for my podcast, the Rodeo Wagon Podcast. So if you're in the market for a hat that's tough enough to handle anything the rodeo throws at it, give Sombrero Brands a try. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. What's up, everybody? I'm thrilled to announce a fantastic partnership between the Rodeo Wagon Podcast and Rodeo Life Official. Rodeo Life isn't just a coffee brand. It's a veteran-owned business that epitomizes the principles of hard work, dedication, and perseverance in all their products. As an avid consumer of Rodeo Life coffee, I am proud to align myself with a company that mirrors my values and resonates with our audience. Supporting this veteran-owned business is not only a testament to our shared ethos, but also a way to give back to those who have served our country. This partnership promises exciting content, collaborations, and surprises for all our listeners and the rodeo community. You can anticipate special episodes featuring the Rodeo Life experts and even a chance to win some Rodeo Life merchandise. We look forward to this journey with Rodeo Life and the enriching experience it will bring our audience. Join us as we venture into this partnership, fueled by a passion for rodeo and a great cup of Rodeo Life coffee. Stay tuned for more exciting updates and the amazing things to come from the Rodeo Wagon podcast and Rodeo Life Official. Make sure you go to rodeolifeofficial.com and check out all their sweet merch. Are you searching for that perfect statement? Look no further than Bluegrass Engraving, where creativity meets craftsmanship. Their specialty lies in creating custom buckles and dip cans, but that's not all. They redefine elegance with an exquisite line of jewelry, and for those who appreciate a little flair, check out their engraved guns collection. At Bluegrass Engraving, they don't just create products, they craft experiences. Visit Bluegrass Engraving today and let them turn your visions into engraved realities. Bluegrass Engraving, where artistry meets authenticity.
This bull bucked me off 13 times, but he ain't going to do it today.
Yeah, dang right.
That's at your level and guys that have been to the UTV more than once and proven themselves, your body already knows what to do because you train your body. Guys need to train their mind just as much as they do their body, in my opinion. And if they do, and they'll realize that winning's between your ears, they'll know how to flip that switch and they won't worry about all that mumbo jumbo. Hey, I'm in a world title race. Yeah, but if I want to stay in it, I got to ride this bull for what he is and not overthink it and override him. And he went away from my hands, so I got a guaranteed contract because I'm on a team series and it's a team series event. So I'm just going to bail off now. That just annoys me something fierce. And I'm not picking on anyone Pacific because, hey, the first one I got on, I looked off too, and I was mad. Too happy to be mad because I've been waiting my whole life to do that. And I wanted them to load it again, but poor old Jimmy Morris's face was white as a ghost. No.
Yeah, that's Marcus Mast. He made a really good point. He was talking about just having the discipline when you do look off when something like that happens to identify it, not to look over it, not to pretend like it didn't happen. You need to identify it. You need to internalize it, and then you need to fix it. You need to make sure that the next time you get on, that's not happening.
Yeah.
Because that can snowball on a guy real quick. I've seen it happen over and over again to some of the best guys in the world. So this isn't just like local guys. We're talking guys that are, could go out there and compete for a world title. That type of guy. Still throughout their career, there've been instances where, people fall into, to that. So
the greatest one that I've seen in our generation's done it, JB Mooney. But he also has the right mindset. He's 5 minutes later, it's over with. And some of these guys, I don't want to even use the word slump because that only exists in your mind. But some of these guys will get so that I've been around, maybe not necessarily traveled with. And sometimes, you never know what's going on in life outside of bull riding. So, like in your case, for instance, if you're away from, I know your family goes with you a lot, or maybe they don't, but when you're away from that and there's things going on at home, your kids are sick or whatever, and this, that, and the other, there's a lot of things more than just bull riding that play a factor into our sport that I don't think most people realize or ever will realize. Because you're literally saying, all right, this is the only thing I know. Let's drive 23 hours one way to go get on two bulls for 5,000 added bull riding and win first. And that's what we did. That was one of the trips that I went on. Me and my buddy Stetson Lewis went from his place at the time in Alamogordo, New Mexico, and went all the way to Waterloo, Illinois for a 5,000 added bull riding, and he won it. And my buddy Andy Smith got second, so we took all the money that night. And we talk about confidence, though. When you are with the right guys and you're feeding off of each other, even me, like if you were to take me with you, like everywhere you went, or even part of the time, I would feed off of that same energy, and it just makes me try all that much harder, just in everything I do. And so, because I want it worse than anybody breathing. I've ridden more bulls in my mind than anybody's ever thought of.
Man, you know what, too? I give everybody, I want to preface this, but I want you to give everybody a little bit of background of kind of what you've gone through and your condition and stuff, because I will tell you this. Just talking to you and getting to know you as a friend, um man, who you're going with, the people you're talking to, you don't have to go with people or talk to people that are competing in the same sport to benefit from traveling partners or even friends. Man,
Right.
there's so much to gain mentally from someone who has gone through difficult things and has developed a mature mindset on how to endure through those times. Everybody's great when they're at the top, but the guys that can struggle the right way, those are the guys that I want to feed from. Those are the guys that I want to be around because that kind of mindset, that's what it takes to win. It takes the ability to be able to endure under all of these obstacles and distractions. So you've been that guy for me. In my phone, I have you as James the Inspiration Phillips because you're one of the most inspirational guys I've ever met. Just your whole story and what you've done has meant so much to me as a person in my
Right.
spiritual life, in my bull riding career, and even my family and being a father. So give everybody a little bit of background of what you've kind of gone through. And
Well, some people might call it a curse, but I call it a blessing. God thought I was strong enough to handle it, so He gave me the gift of cerebral palsy when I was born. And basically, I come out rear end first because I wanted the world to see my best feature when I was born. And it cut off the oxygen supply to my brain for a certain period of time. And what's weird about cerebral palsy is you could fill Cowboy Stadium with nothing but people with cerebral palsy, and there wouldn't be one single person in there with the exact same symptoms or the exact same body or the exact same anything. It's weird. They'd still have cerebral palsy, but it's so dependent on which part of your brain's affected. And it affected my lower body more than it. My upper body might have 5 to 10% in it, and my lower body's has the rest. But that don't stop you when you want something bad enough. You just where there's a will, there's always a way. And if there's a mountain that somebody says you can't climb, maybe you can't climb it yet, but maybe you can find a way around it to find a better place to get started climbing it. That's just how I look at it. And I've had the best people in the world. You made the remark that I'm the inspiration in reality, Kyle. My parents, everybody that's been around me from the time I was a little bitty kid till now, they're the real inspirations because they made me who I am today by not by telling me there are no limits. Go chase your dreams, no matter how crazy they are, or how many times I want to kill you because you want to ride bulls with cerebral palsy. But that's the reason why we got in the interview stuff and things along those lines back in the day.
yeah, man, and you gotta travel with some pretty rank hands and go down the road and we were talking about the other day. I mean, some of the guys that were kind of my heroes when I first got into all of this and started watching on TV during the CBR days and PBR days and heck, you've got to know quite a bit of those guys. I mean, you're good friends with Chase Outlaw and Bonner Bolton and Stetson. You know,
Several more guys, and um, and this weird situation that my body's went through over the last 3.5, 4 years. I knew it was coming, and that was a risk I was willing to take. But I figured I'd be like 80 or 90 years old, not 35 at the time, and couldn't move, barely lift my head off the pillow at times, and whatever. But the main focus, more than even trying to get better physically, was trying to figure out how to help these guys. Uh, and sometimes, I went a little overboard on more than one occasion, on that private Facebook group that we speak of. And for anybody that took offense to it, it was mostly the pain sometimes, but sometimes you just get so irritated because there's nothing you can do and you just don't understand certain things. And if they were just more transparent about things to where everybody could understand them, it wouldn't be an issue at all, because at least I would understand it and have a thought process. Hey, this is why they're doing that. Do I like it still? No, but at least I understand it.
Yeah,
And so,
transparency is a big thing. I think that's been, I think for the most part, especially with, the PBR in this transition, because I actually like the team theories and stuff. I think there's so many good things that are coming. I think the future's so bright for where that they could take this, and I'm also understand that, like, we must be very gracious towards this process, because when you're starting up a new thing like this, it's going to
mhm,
be rough. It's just part of it. You don't just start up something this big, this quickly, and not expect there to be some give and take and some mistakes that are made and some problems. But each year I have noticed they're doing things that are for the betterment of the sport, that are for the betterment of the riders. The transparency, that's been, probably the biggest struggle that I'd say probably most people have, is it's a lack of transparency within all of it. Even from a rider standpoint, I could definitely see from the fan standpoint as well, you
yeah.
know. And
I
then
mean,
also the marketing side for the PBR is like, they're trying to grow the sport, and the only way you can grow the sport is to reach outside and reach people that aren't a part of it and bring them in. So it's kind of the balance of between, really reaching new groups, and then at the same time kind of focusing on the fan base that has been a part of this, since the beginning of it. And I think that there's a balance there, and I try to be graceful as much as you can for, kind of what that looks like, and hopefully as time goes on that some of those things can be resolved for the betterment.
oh, absolutely. And I'm with you there. At first, when I first heard about it, I thought, what in the world are they doing? And I watched it. I even went to the first team series finals. So, y'all, I don't hate the team series by no means. If anybody thinks I do, they're wrong. But there are some things that I wish that they would change. And hopefully somebody will hear this and think about it and maybe make the change. And I'm not even talking about the ticket prices or anything like that, even though I don't like that. But uh, what I'm talking about is actually from a game standpoint. Like when both teams go 0-0, that should be a tie. But if you got two guys on each team that ride a bull, or even one guy on each team that do their job, and you still count that as a tie, that's just stupid. Run one or two more in, even if you even if you have to use the guys off your bench, and whoever rides that bull wins. Have
Yeah.
some kind of play or some kind of a tiebreaker, other than, well, they're just tied. But they did their job. They stayed on bulls. If they didn't do their job, I understand that, because nobody should get paid if you don't do your job.
Now I don't know how it works too, because I could see, because obviously you could get into, like how long you'd have to go to break that tie. But I could see having a tie, right? But then if you say you have two guys that ride, and this may be how it is, I don't know, but you may, if two guys ride and they're 83 points or 85 points, okay, and so they split it and it's over. I could see that being a tie, but if you have two teams and neither one of them stays on, it shouldn't be a tie. It should be a loss. Both teams
Right,
lose. Then
right,
then the tie holds weight, but it's, it's still, it's not considered, as weightful as a win because your team didn't really step out and win it, but they still did enough to get something that's worth something going into the playoffs, whereas the loss would be a detriment. Now, all this goes out the window and really doesn't matter when you consider every team makes the playoffs, and outside of a bye, it doesn't matter. I think that's my biggest critique of it is we need to have at least two teams that don't make the playoffs, and it really forces these teams to, to put forth all of their effort during the regular season instead of trying to play the whole let's get healthy for the playoffs type of a deal.
Right. And what I've noticed, at least since the team series has started, the teams that have the bye are actually the ones that have the disadvantage. Because the guys that get there, if they're nervous, by the time they get their first bull road on the first night, or even just get in there and get started, they're not coming in cold, so to speak.
You do
And
have a point there. I mean, I think that's certainly worth a consideration. I still think, you could still have the buys and stuff, and just I understand they're expanding, and so maybe with 8 teams that was difficult. Now with 10, I don't know if they'll change it. I don't know if they're going to expand to 14 or 12 or what their ultimate goal is, but certainly if every team makes the playoffs, I have an issue with it because then like they, it's like the first team series. The last place team shouldn't have even made the playoffs, let alone win the whole thing. They shouldn't have had an opportunity to win it. They sucked during the year. And again,
right,
I don't even remember. I know it's Justin McBride's team. I don't remember all the riders. It's that doesn't really matter if you're looking at it from a fan's perspective. I'm a Colts fan. We didn't make the playoffs last year. Okay, we sucked last year, but there's something about that whole season and keeping track of it because like, man, I'm rooting for my team because I know that the Colts went into the last game of the season like with a chance to win, but if they didn't, they weren't going to the playoffs. And so, there's just something there from a fan's perspective that's exciting, and it causes you really want to get involved in the regular season and not just wait till the playoffs to watch the excitement.
right. And they'll tell you on TV there's a huge payoff for the winning team of the regular season, but they don't tell you how much it is.
Yeah, they don't tell they don't, even these contracts and all of that, they nothing. It's actually I don't know if they're the only sport. There have to be one of the only sports that does not publicly tell you what the contracts are, and that's interesting.
And that hurts the sport, if you ask me.
Definitely
Now,
does.
now is it anybody's business how much you make in sponsorships and all that other stuff during the regular season? No, but when you sign a contract with the team, there's podcasts, there's all kinds of stuff on YouTube, and I don't even follow any other sports because I don't care about any other sports. This is the only life I've known. Like literally, if you cut me, I would bleed bull riding and rodeo. But um, I have noticed that there is like if you're a Kansas City Chiefs fan or whatever, you can go and there's guys talking about, well, so and so is worth 20 million, but they're going to have to trade him to free up some space or
Yep, that's
whatever.
right.
And that to me adds more excitement to the team series. Not to be it's not to be nosy and to oh well, how much is your son making to sit on the bench, or how much are you making being an alternate or whatever. I don't care about that. It's more of a kid 12 years old discovering bull riding for the first time on the team series. That guy just did that in 8 seconds and he makes how many million a year? That's what I want to do with my life, or at least that's what I think I want to do. I need to go to a bull riding school and I want to try it. That's how you grow the sport.
I
And
will say this. I will say this because I agree completely with you. And I am 100% behind that because I mean in football and baseball, it's a really big deal when these guys are signing contracts and they're picking guys up and knowing what the league minimum is and what the league minimum is for, veteran players, which is different. And all of this goes into, helping fans get more material to geek out on, to get excited about. But then also, I do think that this is going to change. So specifically with the contract side, I don't see the PBR going 5 more years without that becoming a thing. The more that they grow this thing, the more I do believe you're probably going to see more of these other norms in other sports. They're very much norms. I think you're going to start seeing some of those translate over to the PBR as it grows. For one, monetarily, marketing wise, it makes sense. Like that's just another way in which the PBR is going to grow their fan base and get their fan base more involved, which will mean more, ticket sales, and it'll mean more merch and all of that. From a business perspective on their end, I don't see why it wouldn't go that way.
I don't understand it. And like, it'd be, I don't know how they would do it since the teams only have one game a year that's home, but like maybe they could eventually, like, if somebody wanted to go to the whole season, like have a season pass thing or something, it would be ridiculously high, I'm sure. But and that's a long ways down the road. Maybe when they get some more teams, I'm not completely knocking it. I may not understand it, and I may get mad a lot of times, and I may say stuff that I probably never should have said when I'm nearly dying because my nerves are fried like an egg. But when I come back to my senses, it's I'm kind of ashamed of some of the things that I put out there, to be honest. But hey, this is the only life I've ever known, and I'm for anybody that sticks their hand in the bull rope and whatever it takes to put more money in you guys' pockets, the arena crews, the stock contractors, the bullfighters, the arena personnel, everybody that really matters and that actually does any of the hard work, not just the billionaires that pay all the bills, but the
Yeah.
guys that actually do the work, drive the semis from one place to another and set up the arenas and all that other stuff.
Mickey
But at
Robin.
the yeah, but at the end of the day, if you don't have fans, don't matter how good your product is. And obviously they're growing, and I like it. How how they're doing certain things. I don't understand it. Like I wish there was a way they could just run two more bulls in, like I told you earlier. Let them lick it and see about it. But I'm sure those rules and things like that have been thought of. But this is how much of a sports fan I am. I have to call my nephew or somebody else and go, "What's an expansion draft and why are they doing it?"
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. And a lot of that too is, especially when you're talking about the expansion draft and stuff is, these other sports, most of them, are they don't have expansion drafts because they're set. They've been doing it for a long time and so that's something unique in a growing sport and it has to be there or else it really doesn't make sense to add two more teams because they're just going to get the bottom of the barrel at best, and they could get some, there's some ways you could do it, but it still would be unfair, no matter how you cut it. Uh, but I agree. I mean, I think there's growing pains, but I also think that, you know, like this is sports and everybody should have an opportunity to talk about it and to say what they believe and what they like about it and what they dislike. If everybody just agrees on one thing, it's not helping. It ain't helping nobody. It ain't helping the sport. Having a little bit of conflict and a little bit of disagreement can often help you come to the right conclusion. One of my favorite theologians always said contrast is the mother of clarity and context is its handmaiden. So when we start getting some contrasting views and especially with the new sport, if the fans are engaged in what they like and also what they don't like, that can be productful for, any organization and kind of how they move forwards. Um,
Yeah, absolutely. And if I didn't care so much, I wouldn't throw them temper tantrums.
no joke. Yeah, right.
So they're getting exactly what they want. And
Yeah.
if they will explain things a little better, and I'm sure they'll get there, But if every fan was like me, this would be we'd get paid more than the NFL does or any other sport because we deserve it more than any other sport because
Yeah, I
they're
think
not putting the line every day.
I think too, one of the reasons they probably don't make the contract public is because they're not near as big of contracts as these other sports are putting out, and it really look they in general, the sport has grown tremendously and there's a lot of money getting put into it. So I'm not knocking the more money getting put into it or anything like that. But there could be a little bit of shame in or they could, feel ashamed, I guess, in the fact that these contracts don't look like, MLB contracts. Nowhere near it. Or NFL contracts. And it's closer to the NFL. I do know that these contracts aren't fully guaranteed. So when they say guaranteed contracts, that's a very loose statement. Major League Baseball's guaranteed contracts. NFL, it's not guaranteed contracts. PBR is mostly not guaranteed contracts. So if you did put out like, hey, this guy's gonna make $1 million this year, well, you have to look at the details of that contract because, like in football, it may say, hey, $450 million contract, but only a small portion of that's guaranteed. I say small portion, it's still quite a bit of freaking money, but
More per
it's
hour.
not the full amount. So, and I think that's you get into a lot of that stuff too. And I think these contracts aren't the biggest contracts in the world. And these guys aren't, they're not more money, more people are making money, but it's not make the guy that's number one in the world in the teams is not going to necessarily make more money than if he won, a world title during the year.
Is that true? Is that why Cooper Davis is setting out? Is that why, some of these guys are
Well,
jumping?
yeah, so certainly there could be some back end incentives as well with different parts of this. So it gets complex when you look into it. I
Right.
remember talking to Triplet, at the beginning, at least the first year, where he said, top 10 guys in the world, it's kind of a pay cut for them. Everybody else, it's actually they make more money. So it's kind
Right.
of getting spread out more through the team series, and there is a lot more money that's getting spread out. And so the guys that aren't in the top five, they're making more money, and but then it could also be if you think about it this way. So, and I don't know all of this. I'm just talking. I don't. This is kind of informed opinion. You'd say, not all of it because I don't know all the details of everything. But if you look at it this way, so like for instance, Cooper Davis. Okay, so if he were to go and win $1 million during the regular season, okay, they pay out that $1 million over a 10-year span. So they pay 100,000 a year. Okay, so in order to match that, a team just has to say, hey, we'll guarantee you, $1 million over 10 years, or they could say, hey, you sign, a 6-year contract and we'll pay you X of dollars over 6 years, and you'll make more money off of this contract than you would off of winning a world title over here. And you have some of these different things that take place. And then also, I don't know about sponsorship dollars, so this changes a little bit. So a guy like that, in the regular season, now he's getting paid also by sponsors. So if he has just random example, if he has Monster on his back during the regular season, right? If a guy has Monster in the regular season, now he can't have Monster in the team series, so he's not getting that income from Monster. I don't know what they're doing. I'm sure that there's some sort of, I don't know if reimbursement. I don't know what that looks like within those contracts, but the second you get over to the team side, your individual worth goes down in your ability to brand yourself. So I don't know if that's the contracts are kind of making up for that, how that's working, but you get into a lot of different stuff like that that is worth thinking about, when you start
Right.
looking at those.
Right. And nobody like that. Here's the thing, Kyle, to be perfectly honest with you. I'll tell you exactly why this sport's always just going to be a niche sport, in my opinion. I love it with all my heart enough to die for it. And I mean that when I say that to make it better. But how many people in the real world can actually identify with getting on a bucking board?
True.
But how many kids, how many people in general, regardless of their age, has ever thrown a baseball or
Yeah.
picked up a bat or shot a basketball, whether they were at home or in a game or whatever? So they can comprehend what it's like
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
golf club, but they can't comprehend why anybody in the world would get on an 1,800-pound bull for a living. And if you ask any real bull rider that that does it for the right reasons, they'll tell you they don't know either, other than they just love it. It's something inside of you that just drives you to want to be the best at it, just because you're the best at it every time you win, in my opinion. And you win every time you make the whistle. You do that more times than anybody else, you are the best in the world, whether that's the PRCA, PBR, or anything else out there.
Man,
Um,
I think that's a good thing to end this on. We could talk for hours. And I want to have it. I want to do another one. I plan on coming down to Mason Lowe's and stopping by your place. So maybe we'll get
sounds
one in person and talk more. Man, it's been a pleasure having you on here. You have done so much good for the sport from the position that you're in, and the people that you continue to inspire to, not take for granted the things we've been given. Don't take for granted. And
I've done took things for granted just like everybody else has. And you just got to, well, I took that for granted. I'm thinking the wrong way. I need to change the software in my computer, throw that hardware out, put a new one in. And
burn it.
yeah, sometimes that's easier said than done, but
Yeah.
absolutely, this has been an absolute honor and a privilege. And all my bull riding and stock contractor family out there, I love y'all. And all the doctors out there and chiropractors and massage therapists and all those people that have been helping me, literally carrying me from one place to another because I couldn't move for 3.5 years. And we'll get into that whole story later, but I just wanted to tell them thank you for anybody that's might actually be bored enough to listen to my story.
Well, it's been a pleasure to have you on. Hey, tell them about your Facebook page, your Instagram page, and where they can find you so that people can check out all the cool stuff that you do.
Okay. My Facebook page is just James D. Phillips, Huntsville, Arkansas. And then I'm not, my Instagram is the Adaptive CrossFit Cowboy, but I'm not sure how many underscores and all that stuff there is. I just made it. It's been there. I have a TikTok too, and a YouTube, but I don't use the YouTube much. It's mostly just some old workout videos from whenever I was filming for the Adaptive CrossFit competitions. And I used to do something called Adapt and Overcome Fridays just to show other people how I did things. So if somebody else was thinking, well, I can't do that, and they ran across me, whether they were in worse shape than me or better shape than me, well, he did that. And they kind of gets their brain turned into thinking ways they can do it. So that's the only reason I did it. But those are all up there on my YouTube channel if y'all want to check those out. And
Heck
I'll
yeah.
send the links so that he can put them down in the description so y'all can find them
Yeah,
easier.
for sure. Yeah, and guys, while you're there, make sure you check out of our cool sponsors. We got all the links in there. We have links now because of James. He, talked to me about that, and so you're thank you, James.
Yeah,
all the people listening can thank me a little bit too.
yeah, yeah. We gotta give a shout out to those that deserve it. Shout out to Rank Ride and Bonner and
Heck yeah.
everybody that's kind of kept me sane over the last 4 years. It's been a roller coaster. It still is one, and I never have liked roller coasters. But one thing's for sure, um, everybody says, "Well, these are just the cards you're deal with it." Well, I'm going to, but I don't play for second. I play to win. So,
Yeah. Dang
so
right.
we're so we're
All
gonna
right, guys.
get after.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you later.